And what's happening, guys? Welcome along to another episode of 420 News. Hope everybody's good out there. So yeah, a good few comments coming in there already as well in the stream, so a nice one for those guys. Again, guys, it's been a good old weekend. Hopefully all of you had a good one out there as well. I know I met a good couple of you over the weekend, so that was great. We have who's in the audience there? Teresa, Mark, Monsieur, Daily Talker, Oisin Moore. What's going on, guys? Welcome along to this show. It was great crack there over the weekend. It was a pleasure to meet up with yourself there again, Monsieur, and Mrs. Fudge there as well. Actually, guys, I just realised I just gotta go grab me feckin' hat. So before I do, maybe I might just flick on a quick tune there for you. Yes, there we go. We'll do the one there from Peter Cullen. Or Jimmy Cullen. Jeez, Peter Cullen is thinking of Peter Tosh. Jimmy Cullen's video there. We might throw that on. I'll just run downstairs, grab me hat. I'll grind up a bowl there as well while we're at it. Yes. So apologies there, guys. Give people a couple of more minutes there to join in on you. So boom.
Let me tell you about a plant that's been around for millions of years. It has been found on Mother Earth, a beautiful gift. It's called cannabis, you might have heard of it. You see, it really is a wonder plant. There's so much it can do, so little that it can't. Medicinally and industrially, for thousands of years we used it free. But then one day the powers that be, they took this plant away from you and me. Said we couldn't use it anymore. It was now a tool in their drug war. But now we say no more. So legalize, don't criminalize. Legalize, don't criminalize. Legalize, don't criminalize. Legalize. Well, can't you see now that it really is a crime? There's prohibition, people doing time. There's prohibition of a natural healing herb. So many suffering all over the world, suffering without this beautiful plant. There's so much it can do, so little that it can't. Spiritually and recreationally, for millions of people it has set them free. So this is our message to the powers that be, who keep this plant away from you and me. We're not gonna let you anymore. We're no longer pawns in your drug war, because now we say no more. So legalize, don't criminalize. Legalize, don't criminalize. Legalize, don't criminalize. Legalize.
Oh, look who that guy is. I know that guy.
The hemp plant is one of the most beneficial plants for the environment and humans. It is excellent for industrial purposes and in the medical world. It is a biodegradable, renewable, eco-friendly and much more profitable alternative to everything from
Go on,
wood
Thomas.
to cotton to plastic and even fossil fuels. So legalize, don't criminalize. Legalize, don't criminalize. Legalize, don't criminalize. Legalize, yeah, legalize, don't criminalize. Legalize, don't criminalize. Legalize.
Free the weed. Go on, Jimmy. Legend. So guys, my apologies there. I just had to run. My head felt a bit naked without the old hat. Yeah, who's that fella with the hat? I didn't feel the same without it, to be fair. Looked a bit strange kind of seeing myself here on screen and having a just seeing my head. Right guys, a little bit past 4:20, but we got my bowl blazed up here, we got my hat in my head, and we got our lubrication ready to go as well, keeping me hydrated throughout the show. So if you got them, guys, if you got your torch of freedom out there ready, if you got your bowls of civil disobedience, or maybe your sticks of civil disobedience, depending on how you might be consuming today. But let's fire them on up. Got some scissor hash on top of this as well. She's extra smoky. Those clouds of freedom. Ooh, beautiful, beautiful. Yes. So right, shout out to everybody in the audience, guys. Daily Talker, Monsieur, Mark Andrew, Teresa, we got Daily Talker there, I said your name already, Steve Jones, Toto's in the audience, what's going on, Toto? Miss Stowaways is there, Fwetch, what's going on, Fwetch? Who else is out there? We have Hype in the audience also, Irish Hemp Harvest, R420 Supplies, what's happening, guys? Hope you're doing good. Two great businesses there, guys, so go out and check them out, Irish Hemp Harvest and R420 Supplies. Give them all the support you can. Others out there as well. We have Oisin Moore, Ashton. What's happening, Ashton? Hopefully you're recovered there after our brief little outing there on Saturday. Who else is there? DB Woodcraft as well. What's happening, DB? We've Thomas Arthur. What's happening? What's going on, buddy? Who else is out there? Happy 420, my G. Nice one, Thomas. Appreciate that, pal. Jared Kelly and Green Tea. What's going on? Jared Kelly and Green Tea. So that's everybody, guys. That's everybody I can see anyway, at least in my stream chat here anyway. So yeah, let's rock and roll with today's 420 news, because I suppose the first piece I have for you is just a bit of an update as to what went down on Saturday above in Dublin. A very successful day out for the cannabis community. And short notice, I suppose, given that this was only announced a week before the protest was held. We had almost 150 people in attendance, maybe throughout the course of the day. We probably attracted 200 people. People would have came and went, came by for a quick little protest and left again. But yeah, definitely it was a great day, well attended. Now, obviously, it would have been amazing to see 1,000, 10,000, or more people up there, because that's how many people really, in reality, support this. But still, on short notice, to get that number of people, it was an incredible day out. We started off at the Garden of Remembrance. We met up there from 2 o'clock. I arrived on scene myself a little after 2. I was met by Charlene, one of the organisers there, and Charlene was walking around, doing her bits and pieces, meeting with people. She had a lovely smelling spliff in her hand, but at one stage, as I was talking to Charlene, she had to go in and talk to the cop. And Charlene just over talking to the cop, smoking away, talking away on her spliff right in front of the cop. No bothers at all. So again, an incredible statement there made again by the protesters on the day, defying what is an unjust law in full view of the cops as well. And the cops did little to nothing about it. They did nothing about it, in fairness. They respected our right to protest. And in fact, I would imagine that the guards that were there on the day supported our message and what we were actually doing. There was, I believe there was a number of cops there on the day, the Gardaí. They had one van, an unmarked van, no stickers or nothing on it, with 2 cops inside, and that they had another marked car then in front of it. And also, I suppose, when we went marching, then they afforded us 2 guards on bikes, cycling bikes. So yeah, there was a number of Gardaí there on the day. Again, they were only there to keep us safe. They weren't there to interfere with us or to oppress us like they normally would when we're alone and just walking the streets and they blindside us. They practically sucker punching us. But yeah, it was a great day. With the protest started with myself. I opened up the to the audience that was there. Just talked about the effects of prohibition in Ireland, how they affect people, but also about the community of people who consume cannabis in Ireland too. Going by the recent Eurobarometer, there was 17% of the adult population in Ireland aged between 18 and 35. They consume cannabis. And again, when you apply that to the statistics or to the numbers of Ireland, you end up somewhere in the region of between 300 and 400,000 people in Ireland who would have consumed cannabis at least once in the previous 12 months of that survey. Again, if you take any 12-month period over the last couple of years, you'd find on average about maybe 18,000 people getting criminalised for personal drug possession, and only about 15,000 of that actually being for cannabis. That's being the large majority of it actually, or close to around 70% there get done for cannabis. So compare that, you have about 15,000 people getting criminalised for possession of something that almost 300 to 400,000 people in just one age bracket. If you were to apply that 17% to the wider adult population, that number goes up even more. And that number of people criminalised, it was all of that age bracket. So you could say actually maybe comfortably 500,000 people, and that's been very conservative about it too. 500,000 people in Ireland consume cannabis every year, but meanwhile only about 15,000 people, get criminalised for it. That's incredibly imbalanced. And I talked about the fact of if you were to look at those people who get criminalised and to paint a picture of each one of them, you would see an emerging trend, maybe the fact that the hoodie being one, tracksuits being another, young, male, certain areas, there's a few things there that would emerge, and that's my suspicion anyway. I don't believe there's any studies done to back what I'm saying up, but that's certainly my theory. But yeah, definitely we have a massive community of people in this country who consume cannabis, and the people who get picked on because of it, it's not representative of that community. It's incredibly discriminatory the way in which the law is applied. So that was kind of the focus of my talk on that day. I finished with making the people get fired up and said, guys, chant it loud and proud, we are not criminals. And we are not criminals. If you're a consumer of cannabis, or even if you're a person who grows and sells a bit of your own cannabis, you're not a criminal at all. You're just a person who wants to get by in life and do something good for their community. So yes, say it loud and proud. We are not criminals, guys. Fly that flag high and be proud of it. So here's some lovely photos then on the day. I have a photo here of, where's the after disappearing at? There he is. There's Tom. Tom Curran spoke to the crowd. He spoke after Mark Jenkins of Relief in Dungarvan, who we were out protesting for there a few weeks ago. Tom spoke then after Mark, and Tom's a veteran really when it comes to the activism in Ireland. He's a human rights activist for 4 decades now. He said 40 years, I believe he was saying. So quite a period of time. But he was speaking at this very same spot only 4 years ago. And he was just kind of moved by where we are now today, that he really feels that we're close, we have the potential for change much more than what we ever did before. So it was great to hear Tom give his piece there as well, and also to get the crowd fired up, get the public fired up, because it is on us, the people. He said it himself that we can't wait for these politicians to do it. We have to get out there and push for it and organise and get just the grow on our numbers as we are. And then here is a lovely little photo there of the group. After Tom spoke, we had Russell Banta joined the speakers, and he spat out some statistics there about the number of people in Ireland who are prescribed medical cannabis. And a very interesting one Russell spat out, and I hope he doesn't mind me repeating it there. But it was that if you were to push the population of Ireland into the Croke Park, 70,000 people, well, in that stadium of 70,000 people, only one of them would be prescribed cannabis, medical cannabis. And that's going, by the population of Ireland. And using that same statistics, if you were to apply again the population of Ireland into that stadium, there would be 8,000 people in there prescribed opiates for their pain. So that's just one condition in which cannabis could be an alternative for much more dangerous drugs. And that's a stark reminder of the effects of cannabis prohibition in Ireland, where there's an 8,000% difference between the amount of people prescribed cannabis and the amount of people prescribed opiates. And that's crazy, when you consider the effects some of these opiates can have on people and on their bodies, especially when they could be used on the long term. And you compare that then to maybe medical cannabis, which again, it's non-toxic. It doesn't seem to be detrimental on the body, although there is, some evidence out there to say that it can alter teens' brains. So yeah, that'll segue us into the next story there on that one, which is that there was a recent study that came out there talking about how cannabis may alter a teen's developing brain. And this is something we see time and time again, because basically a teen's brain, a young person's brain, it's always developing, it's always changing. And one of the researchers there said it best, really, that the brain is like a wild forest when you're young. And over the years, as you grow, you continuously take certain paths through that forest in your brain, and you wear a path of least resistance, and over time then that becomes the pattern which is used most of the time. And I think that's a good way of explaining just how the brain develops. And they talk about, when you use cannabis as a young person, that there is a thinning of some of these brains, and a thinning is again just that pathway creation. So that's sped up a little bit more for young people. So that's what they kind of found within that study. But I suppose it's interesting then that the researchers also bring up in the piece, in the article that they were talking about here, that alcohol and tobacco are actually far more damaging to a young person's brain than cannabis is. So that's just something to keep in mind here, when we compare harms across the board. Alcohol and tobacco actually pose a greater risk to the young brain out there. But we know through regulation that we can reduce the supply of these things to young people. So again, it goes to show that really, if you want to protect young people from the dangers from cannabis consumption at a young age, you regulate it. You put it behind a retail, behind a counter with a reputable retailer who's actually going to ask for an ID, and we can put an age limit in place, and we can educate consumers and all of that. Because the way in which we're going in Ireland is incredibly backwards. The Gardaí are incredibly inefficient in what they're doing. Is meant to keep the public safe. They're not really doing it, really. Because you look at this shit, I'm just going to pop up a video there for you, if you don't mind. But this is a video that was over on Gangland Intel over on Facebook that I came across, and it's just highlighting, some of the work that the guards actually have to deal with, and some of the nasty shit that goes on out there for young people, and people kind of keep saying that, the biggest dangers for young people is drugs and all of this stuff, but really, the biggest danger for young people is our flawed policies, our flawed system here, where youth services, diversions that could be in place for these young people are incredibly underfunded, and there's a lack of access, and we will get back to that in a second. This is the video that I just want to play for you, and this is, I'm not too sure where this is, somewhere in Ireland anyway, Yanni's takeaway, but
oh Christ,
a load of heads, a load of young fellas, they went into the chipper.
a hammer. Oh my God.
And they have a hammer.
Oh my God, oh my God. Oh my God, they're after hitting him with a hammer.
Do you know?
I think they're bringing it from inside the shop there. Is he up?
So you have to wonder, what fueled that initially, why did those young fellas go in there and attack that other young fella? For me, I would suspect maybe that's an attack there, and maybe a rival drug dealer or something like that. Maybe he owed the boys money or something like that. Maybe he was after robbing the boys' money. Maybe he was after ratting on somebody. Again, for me, I'm just kind of the big propagandist against prohibition. So this is my propaganda. I'll have no shame in admitting it. I'm always going to be fucking incredibly biased in my theories as to why this violence occurs. But again, you think about this, our Gardaí, they have enough to be dealing with. than to be dealing with people like myself or anybody else out there who wants to consume a bit of cannabis. If there's people out there going around with hammers, or a recent article here in Cork, was it 1 sec now, the amount of knives seized in Cork from young people, knives and forks, knives, Cork, and news. 1 sec, guys, I just get this up for you. Yeah, figures show worrying levels of knives across Cork. Yeah, this is the one. This is an article that was up there recently that I came across. And surely this is something that our Gardaí should be focusing far more on, rather than non-violent drug offenders, is my opinion. And incidents like the ladder that we've seen there on the video, the where all the young fellas went in, we'd be seeing less of that too, because maybe the cops would be able to be more proactive in deterring that kind of a violence out there, because they're not wasting so much time on non-violent drug users. But we talk about, young people and the dangers there to them. Well, we've to go have a look at Iceland, and I believe I might have brought this up before in the show as to Iceland's approach to teenage drug use. And it's a very interesting one, and there's a very good article out there. It's about 4 years old now, I believe. It's from 2017, and it's written by a journalist named Emma Young. There we go. This is the one. So this is the article. I would recommend go over and give it a look. It's a long enough article, but I've taken some excerpts out of it that I believe are incredibly informing as to deterring drug use for young people. Because this is what I talk about, on the show numerous times, how people who get involved in drug use at a young age, they're more than likely people who are vulnerable already. And to victimise them any further for what is no fault of their own. The vulnerability inflicted upon them is no fault of their own. They're a young child growing up, and through no fault of their own, they're more at risk of drug abuse because of the environment. The environment is a big determinant factor for whether a young person is going to use drugs and abuse drugs or not. So. I'll read a few bits out of that article there. Daily Talker, so many things need fixing, so many things lacking funding, yet the government still pour money into trying to fix people who don't need fixing. Yeah, that's very true, Daily Talker. And something I suppose just to touch on there before I get stuck into this article is that when we were marching on Saturday above in Dublin, the fire brigade were out. I'd imagine the Dublin City Fire Brigade were out doing a fundraiser. They were doing a fundraiser for, I believe it was a young girl in a wheelchair. I'd imagine it was for probably some medical treatment that she used to receive. And I just couldn't help get over in my head, that we've these public servants out probably maybe in their own spare time. Maybe that's their off time. I'm not too sure what goes on there. Maybe that's how the fire brigade are getting paid to be there. But regardless, they're out there trying to fundraise for medical treatment for a young child. But meanwhile, why is there nobody out there fundraising for our local cops to go out and continue to fight this war on drugs? Why don't they need a fundraiser? Because they're already getting more than enough money. They're getting it all. But meanwhile, there's people out there, families, who have to go and do all these fundraisers for their son or their daughter in order to get a medical treatment, because the government there don't fund these things properly. It's incredibly backwards, it really is. It really boils your blood. It boils my blood anyway when I think about it. The amount of money that's wasted in the war of drugs, and the fucking unlimited amount of better things that they could be using it on. Sparks, the HSE reported in 2020 treatment episodes of cannabis, or 2,120 treatment episodes of cannabis in 2020. Quite a few of these will be court ordered, but 2,120 treatment episodes is hardly a drug crisis. Yeah, that's it. I would imagine a lot of them are court ordered, but as well, I wonder how many of those treatment episodes for cannabis were actually down to synthetic cannabinoids. I don't believe they really test for it once a person shows up in hospital. It's like, oh, well, we smoked some cannabis earlier, And there you go, it's written down now. The person said they smoked cannabis, but really, who tested it? You're trusting that the drug dealer who sold it to him tested it? I would imagine of that 2,120, a high percentage of it would actually be some synthetic cannabinoids as well. Because they are addictive as well. Teresa O'Connell News for Ireland have one up of a poor 14 getting kicked in the face by the Garda. That's right. I've seen that, Teresa, and the young fella has a big old scar across his eyebrow now, in fairness. That video was up there as well earlier. Nasty enough foul stuff, in fairness, like, you know, that's not a way to gain the respect of young people. No matter what they'd done was wrong, you know, you don't go and treat them like that. That video is actually up there as well. Do you want me to show you? It's not for the faint of heart anyway, that's for sure. There we go. So, guys, look away if you don't want to see this. So keep an eye here on the right hand side. Look, the young fella's on the floor. Boom, see him stamping on his head? I'm watching another kick here now. Sneaky kick come in. Watch him, see? Boom, sneaky kick. And kneeling down on top of him. This young fella's only 14 or 15. I'm not too sure of the young fella's actual age, but nasty way to be treating him. Great use of the Garda resources there, you know. Now his helmet's off him. See, the helmet there is on the floor behind him now at that stage. So he has a helmet on him here, throws him to the floor, boom, stamps on his head. Sick, man. That's sick, like, you know. This is a Garda in Ireland. There was another video up there as well. Looked at the cops coming over here. Look, he's having an altercation with a member of public who's kind of maybe a bit maybe related to the. This is a cop here now saying, "Do something." See him? Look at the 3 cops there now, right up on top of your man. Now, I'm not too sure what the backstory is here, but this does not look good for a Gardaí. And he's still following him. Do you know? No, I don't know what the backstory is there, to be fair, like, as to what happened before this, like, but I don't know, is it in connection to that first video where the young fella got the kick in the face and this fella came down and was like, "Man, that's fucking uncalled for," like. But it's a bit messed up. I went down the road then, as you can see here in this one, and there's a bit more of an altercation. The lads are getting arrested here now as well. So cops in this country, man, you just it's fucked up. Like, this is the young fella here then. This is who got the kick in the face. Don't know what he was after doing, like, but this is completely unwarranted. There was another one back here as well. This one. Again, like, you know, I can only imagine what this must be like, you know. The cameraman here as well, actually, guys, I'll say he's terrible at the camera duty. But what I'm just going to describe the scene as what I think I'm seeing is like 2 guards at the side of a road, maybe out by a bus stop, by what it looks like. And there's 2 young people sitting on a wall. So I'd imagine that the cops, in my own experience, seen the young people, they pulled in and said, "Oh, we're going to search these young fellas here now," or something like that. And maybe the young fella's got a bit lippy or something with him, you know. Maybe he said something the cop didn't like. And this is what I think, that's what I think happened. So I'll play it here so you can kind of see it. Again, the video quality is not great. But watch this cop at the back. Watch him. He pulled the young fella up off the wall. He's after pushing him up against the pole there now, the shelter, what I think is a bus stop. And here now, watch the shove. Boom, he shoves him back. He shoves him back there, and I think he hit his head off of the bear. Like, it looks nasty enough, like. But apparently the cop is going to be brought to court here now with the use of this video. But like, there's no need for this kind of carry on there by the cops, like. But again, I don't know the backstory to this, like, but it just doesn't look good when you see it from this perspective. But yeah, that's a Garda watch on 420 News. Mad stuff going on out there, like, seriously. Mad stuff. It's not the way to be treating young people anyway. Like, it's certainly not the approach, yeah, because then you'll end up with that kind of a top hat where is ACAB, all caps are bastards. That's I believe it is, isn't it? ACAB. And yeah, that's not really the way we want our society to go. We need our young people to be looking up to the cops. They're there to protect us. There shouldn't be this kind of hatred and this kind of divide there between us and our Gardaí. But unfortunately, that's the way we're going here. Unfortunately. So let's go back to Iceland, because we kind of got off topic there, I think. So yeah, Iceland anyway, and their approach. So the article, as I say, go check it out, as I pointed it out there. But it includes Goodberg and Milkman. Goodberg, who is a psychologist in Iceland, and Harvey Milkman, who is also an American psychology professor who teaches over in Reykjavik. Harvey Milkman says that you could barely walk down the streets of Reykjavik on a Friday night because of how unsafe a person felt, because there was hordes of teenagers getting in your face drunk. And that was a quote coming from Harvey Milkman, who says that now, things have really turned around, and as they're going around over in Iceland, they're going visiting these different premises, these different facilities that are there for young people, but are funded by the government, including indoor skating halls, ping pong, badminton. They even have, now over in Iceland, obviously they can do this, but a geothermally heated outdoor swimming pool. And these are all there to be utilised for the young people, for them to be actively engaged in different things. They've also introduced over there, I suppose, a curfew too for young people between 13 and 16 in the winter time. Obviously it's at 10 p.m. and in the summertime it's at 12 p.m. But outside of putting in restrictions like this, what they've done is they've encouraged young people to actively engage in sports and recreation. And not only that, but for the parents also to spend more time with their kids, and that is what Iceland done to turn around the rate of drug use over there. Because back in 1992, when they started off in this mission, they started doing this survey in every school across Iceland, where they asked the young people about their drug use. And I suppose a lot of this was because of Harvey Milkman. Harvey Milkman, who back prior to this was working with the American Association for Drug Abuse, or whatever the place was. And he was employed to understand why people use drugs, why people continue to use drugs, and what the threshold for abuse is. Why do people stop, and why do they relapse? And for him, he just came out of it thinking, people can actually get addicted to anything, including drink, cars, money, sex, food, cocaine. And that's a quote there from Milkman. He says, the idea of behavioural addiction became his trademark. And this idea spawned another one. He said, why not orchestrate a social movement around natural highs, around people getting high on their own brain chemistry, because it seems obvious to him that people who want to change their consciousness without deleterious effects of drugs. And by 92, he had received a 1.2 million grant to form a project called Self-Discovery. And what this project done is it offered teenagers a natural high alternatives to drugs and crime. They got referrals from teachers, school nurses, counsellors about kids who were of the age of 14 who didn't see themselves as needing treatment, but who had problems with drugs or petty crime. And Harvey says that we didn't say to them, you're coming in for treatment. He said, we'll teach you anything you want to learn. He said, be it music, dance, hip-hop, martial arts, anything at all that you want, the young person wanted to learn, they would facilitate it for them. And the idea was that these different classes could provide a variety of alterations in the kids' brain chemistry and give them what they needed to cope better with life. Some might crave an experience that could help reduce anxieties, and others maybe after a rush. And that's similar too for people who use drugs, and he compares that back to people who use heroin, that they want to escape, while people who use amphetamines kind of want to face problems head on. And yeah, that's the kind of difference there with people who use drugs he was talking about. And he said at the same time, the recruits who engaged in this program, they got life skill training, which focused on improving their thoughts about themselves and their lives and the way in which they interacted with other people. He said the main principle was that drug education doesn't work because nobody pays attention to it. What is needed are the life skills to act on that information. And kids were told it was a 3 month program, but some of the kids actually stayed in it for 5 years. But in 91, Milkman was invited over to Iceland to talk about his work and his findings and his ideas, because Iceland was having a bit of a problem over there. They had a very high rate of or consumption of drugs, mainly alcohol and tobacco, actually, by the younger population over there. With some surveys finding that over 40% of the kids had been smoking cigarettes and drinking alcohol within the prior 30 days. And that's kids aged between 13 to 16. So that was quite a high number back there in the early 90s. But again, they became interested in his ways in doing things. He went over to a town called Tindar, Tindar. And he says it was designed around the idea of giving kids better things to do, he explains. It was here that he met Goodberg, who was then a psychology undergraduate and a volunteer at Tindar. They have been close friends ever since, and Milkman started coming regularly to Iceland and giving talks. And these talks in Tindar attracted the attention of another researcher, Inga Dora, and she wondered, what if you could use healthy alternatives to drugs and alcohol as a part of a program, not to treat kids with problems, but to stop kids drinking or taking drugs in the first place. Now, this is not like a complete abstinence thing at all. It's more about just protecting young people at that vulnerable time in their lives while their brains are still developing, to not be exposed to these mind-altering substances. It's still over in Iceland. People go on to consume alcohol and cannabis and other drugs, at later ages. But when you compare it to European counterparts, they do it at a much later stage than we do here in Ireland, for example. Some of the questions included in the survey that are that's asked in every school over there, it is that have you ever tried alcohol? If so, when did you last drink it? Have you ever been drunk? Have you ever tried cigarettes? If so, how often do you smoke? How much time do you spend with your parents? Do you have a close relationship with your parents? What kind of activities do you take part in? And these were questions that were used at the launch of the study back in 1992. And this study is still carried out to this day. Every single year, the kids in the Iceland schools between the age of 14, 15 and 16, they all fill out this questionnaire, so that every year now Iceland has are incredibly up to date as to the kind of the relationship that the young people in their country have with these different substances that could pose a risk to the development of the brain. But what they've found anyway since launching this is that back in 1992, that there was 25% of young people 13 to 16 were smoking every day. Over 40% had got drunk in the past month. But when the team drilled right down into it, the data, they could identify precisely which schools had the worst problems and which had the least. It says their analysis revealed clear differences between the lives of kids who took up drinking, smoking and other drugs and those who didn't. A few factors emerge as strongly protective, that being participation in organised activities, especially sport, 3 or 4 times a week, a total time spent with parents during the week, a feeling cared about at school, and not being outdoors in the late evenings. It says at that time there had been all kinds of substance prevention efforts and programs, but mostly they were built on education. Kids were being warned about the dangers of drinking drugs, but as Milkman had observed in the US, these programs were not working. And that's what we're still doing here in Ireland. Like, it's not working. Just stay noting. Like, trying to scare kids away from drugs. It doesn't fucking work at all. Again, proper regulations, but not only that, coupled with this approach that Iceland has taken, that they've afforded young people opportunities to take part in all sorts of extracurricular activities outside of school and in association with their school. They've made it a law that parents' associations have to be a part of the school. That's very good. And they've also made efforts there to educate parents as to the importance of their role too, in engaging with their kids in order to deter this kind of a behaviour. That being, they saw that kids, the amount of time that they spent with their parents, since starting this program, it over doubled. And that also coincides with the reduction of the substances. As I said, that they were at 40% at one stage. They got that down to 23% afterwards. Also, the relationship there with other drugs, they've also knocked that down too. They got that from it was in the 20% down to 7%. So big reductions in the rate of use of different drugs there, by again encouraging young people to engage in extracurricular activities. One of the ways in which they've done that in Iceland, every family gets a leisure card, and that gives the family 35,000 krona, the equivalent of about €300 per year per child, to pay for recreational activities. And a lot of the recreational clubs and stuff over there are still free as well outside of that. So the opportunities are endless, and that's really what Iceland has done. Again, that article is a lot longer than what I went into there, but there's a lot to be learned there from Iceland's approach. They are taking steps into Europe now. People like Harvey Milkman and Gorberg. They started off Youth in Europe, I believe, is the organisation that they started up. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, Youth in Europe, and John Goodberg heads that. They began back in 2006, and still they get a lot of criticisms to their approach, because of things like the curfew and stuff like that that's in there. But still, nonetheless, it's been implemented in places, and they are showing improvements. They've done it in other places. Even they work with places as far as Korea as well. So it is a much better approach there. So yeah, let's drive on. But like Mary Cannon and all of those ones, you see them out there, and they're always kids and drugs, and like they'll go on about this prior one, the kids and the teenage developing brain may also alter the things developing brain, but they'll never actually talk about the fact that prohibition makes cannabis access ever more easier for kids. They'll never talk about that at all. Like they almost imply that when we call for legalization, that we want cannabis on the street corners for all kids to be able to go and buy it, that it should be free for everybody or something. That's not what we're saying at all. No, we're calling for a controlled, regulated market where we're able to, as consenting adults, go in and buy a product that's not dangerous to us because it could be contaminated by the black market. And for us to be able to grow our own cannabis and be able to keep it on home and be responsible adults, as we're trusted with other dangerous substances such as alcohol, even fucking the detergents and shit that you keep under your sink, like they're incredibly dangerous. We're allowed to have them in our home. If your kid gets their hands on those things, they're going to die. Cannabis, they're going to be a bit sleepy, but die? No. Like if there's any kid ever died from eating any of these edibles over the last few years, we would have heard about it by now. But we'd drive on Switzerland hairy biker style, be amazing. Sounds more like a health-led approach towards their youth. Yeah, that was it. That was actually how the author of the study actually over there in Iceland coined it. It was the largest mental health study of young people ever in the world, I would imagine. What they done, and the evidence, really, the outcome speaks for itself. They've really turned it on its head over there with their approach. Frank Fian should really go visit him, or they should come visit him maybe. Spark says every night 1,500 beds are occupied as a result of alcohol. 10% of all general inpatient costs are spent on alcohol-related discharges. 30% of emergency department and 7% of GP costs related to alcohol. That's interesting, Sparks. I did not know that. Wouldn't you think that maybe having a healthier alternative like cannabis would be beneficial for society? Ireland's relationship with alcohol isn't great. Yeah, I know that. That's definitely true. Their part of Cork in Iceland is a beautiful place, but no wonder the kids smoked and drank at young ages. It's a beautiful place, but in the winter it's fucking depressing. Dark mornings and dark days, nights in the winter. Yeah, that's true, man. And I'd imagine it's probably depressing because of the lack of vitamin D. Like vitamin D is an incredibly important nutrient for the body, and if you're not getting enough sunshine, you're not going to be making enough of it. So you have to be getting it through your diet. They do definitely get a good bit, maybe through their diet. They eat a lot of fish up there, but still, you need probably a bit more than what they're getting. And yeah, definitely lack of vitamin D can be associated but not attributed. Yeah, it's not being the cause of, but it's definitely associated with feelings of depression. We need to strip back all the extracurricular rights of the Gardaí. Definitely. Daily Talker says, my hope is the youth, although there isn't much of a hope, to be honest. My hope is in the youth. Yeah, yeah, I've definitely seen, like, when we were up there at the protest that Saturday, in fairness, like, that's the photo of us, but the photo here of Tom, the group of people sitting down around Tom there, like, this is, like, I'd imagine they're probably 18, 19, 20s, definitely early 20s anyway. None of them there are in their mid 20s, I don't think. They're definitely like 18, 19, 20. So it was great to see the youth out there represented. Sadly, people from my own generation, we weren't there. A lot of us, I suppose, caught up with prior commitments, family, work, and all of that stuff. Fair have been targeted too, I suppose, is keeping us away as well. And that was a part of my speech, how the stigma and this fear paints an obscure picture of who our community is. Because if you were to base our community on the gathering there the other day, you would think it was a bunch of young people consuming cannabis, because the majority of people there were like early 20s. But again, like a lot of patience there too. Right, we drive on anyway. We go to Cork. Drug raids in Cork. Yes, lovely. This was in Cork on Friday evening, I believe. This was where a man in his 60s, yes, on Friday, a Garda raid was carried out in Knocknaheeny, where a man in his late 60s was arrested and held at the Granabrower Garda station and detained under the Section 2 of the Criminal Justice Trafficking Act of 96, after the Gardaí seized €129,700 worth of cocaine and cannabis and cash from his house. I actually started utilising my website more. So I'm just going to bring this to your attention. There it is. Boom. Get rid of that picture. 1 second. Boom. This is over on martinsworld.ie. I'm going to start using this blog space up there. So when you click on 420 News, you will get some of the 420 News. I'll start updating it more. Just didn't get a chance with it there now since today. Just started it. But this is one of the first pieces that I'm just going to throw up there. I'm going to get a write up on the protest up there as well once I get back from the gym later on after the Thai boxing. But within this, I kind of give my opinion as to the effect that this has, the effect Prohibition has, and in this, I highlight here how the house was located in a residential area where kids could have easily been sold or been used to sell these drugs. And I asked the question then, how long more will we continue with the failed prohibition of drugs? Because that's effectively what we're seeing here. The prohibition of drugs has put these drugs and the drug dealers now in our neighbourhoods where our kids are out there walking the streets. Our kids could easily be used to sell these drugs or be sold these drugs coming from these unregulated sources, which is probably the biggest danger from them outside of the substance itself. You don't want that, and that's all because of prohibition. I'll also go on and talk about there being multiple units of the Gardaí being involved in the raid, including the Granabrower drugs unit, the serious crime unit, and the Garda dog unit also. I asked, is this something the Irish state can continue to keep funding when the Irish taxpayer is receiving no value for the money spent? While these drugs are off the street, the seizure in reality does nothing to the availability of drugs in Cork. In fact, like some people up there on Twitter were even saying, these drugs will be replaced by lunchtime. It says the search uncovered €111,700 worth of cocaine, €18,000 worth of cannabis resin, and €1,200 in cash. It says the drugs will be sent to Forensic Science Ireland, again at a cost to the Irish taxpayers. A man in age in his late 60s was arrested at the scene, and he's been since charged and is scheduled to appear before the district court today, Monday 20th of September. Don't know what the outcome of that was there, but even over there now anyway, guys, you can add your old comments. So yes, get over there, share your thoughts in these articles as I upload them. If anybody out there, guys, feels like they would be cut out to be a reporter here, if you're okay with having your face on the 420 news, I'm also looking to get 1 or 2 people to get involved. If you would like to come on and take part in a part of a kind of a panel discussion, you would bring your news piece and we would discuss it, and we would go through each other's news pieces, just so it's not just my opinion all the time. I would feel it would be nice to have a couple of more people on here. Maybe 2 or 3 other people would make for a good discussion there. We'd each have our own little news pieces we would deliver, and then we'd have a discussion there afterwards at the end. So send me in your CVs. But this is a voluntary position, guys. Volunteering to fight for the legalisation of cannabis and the decriminalisation of the drug user in Ireland by educating the public through these informative little sessions here on the 420 News. So do get in touch, guys. Drop me an email, martinsworldpodcast@gmail.com. So we drive on, guys, and we go to the next headline, which is Coke and cannabis worth €10,000 seized in County Clare underneath Operation Tara. So again, I talked about how in the past, Operation Tara, it's costing the state multiple millions of euro every year. Every year it's only going to be in place. I'm not too sure they're going to run it for just the 1 year. But it's going to cost multiple million euros in just for paying for the cops. That's not to do with any conferences they might throw as part of it as well, our little gala dinners there for the boys, the commissioners or whatever they are, all the sergeants and stuff like that to come in, because you can be damn sure that there's expenses included under Operation Tara, such as renting out hotels, bringing in all the boys and talking about, oh, look how good we're doing there over the last few months. They probably do it every 3 months. Like every 3 months, they probably have a bit of an update there in Operation Tara, where they bring in some of the heads, like down to a hotel, they rent out a room and they do their presentation of numbers. All hush-hush, though, behind closed doors. Not open to the members of the public at all, who might come in and actually criticise them and the misdeeds that they're doing in today's society. But yeah, this is in Ennis in County Clare, where the cops on Friday evening at about 9:10, it says here, the Gardaí from the Clare Divisional Drugs Unit carried out a search under warrant at a house in Ennis. They discovered a quantity of suspected cannabis herb with an estimated street value of €3,200 and suspected cocaine with an estimated street value of €6,790. No arrests were made at the time, but investigating Gardaí are following definite lines of inquiry, and a file will be prepared for submission to the office of the DPP, and the suspected controlled drugs will be forwarded to Forensic Science Ireland, again for analysis, but at a cost to the Irish taxpayers. Yes, well done to the fucking prohibitionists out there who continue this failed war on drugs, who continue to put cocaine and cannabis on sale at the same venue from, again, unregulated, unscrupulous, organised crime gangs who were free to sell it to people of all ages. Yes, there's no requirement for IDs when you go and buy your drugs from an illegal drug dealer. Unlike if you were over in America right now, where if you're a 21-year-old adult in certain states, you have to go in, you have to produce your ID just to even get in the door. Never mind, say to make a purchase, you have to produce your ID just to even get in the door of these stores. And that's how regulations work to protect people. You can put information on the product again to inform the consumers as to different strengths. And then you can also deter, this gateway of people buying one drug and also being offered another drug at the same point. Because, when you go in and you buy stuff in a cannabis store over in America, or even in Spain for that matter, they're not there trying to sell you cocaine at the same time also. So again, just highlighting how the failure of Prohibition puts these two drugs side by side, making it more dangerous for us out there who go and buy them from these people. And do you even get a say then in who you support, And we'll talk about John Gilligan and the likes of them and how they've benefited off the back of our community. But do we really have a say in who we support? We don't. And yet judges and stuff like that, they'll come out and talk about how drug users you've got blood in your hands, you know, because you're the one supporting this by buying this stuff. You continue to support it and keep it going. But meanwhile, not realizing actually, no, that it's the prohibitionists actually are the backbone of the organized crime gangs, drugs industry. You know, without prohibition, you wouldn't have illegal drug sales unless you had terrible policies like the current ones in Ireland, where we keep putting the taxes up on alcohol and tobacco, thus creating a black market for the sale of those very same products. I was listening there, and I'm trying not to go off too much of a tangent, but like your man Ken O'Flynn, a local councillor here in Cork, and he was on the radio this morning calling for more gardai after a video emerged online of a guy getting pulled out of a wheelchair in the city, and he's like, we need more gardai, and I was just like, oh man, I was facepalming so much, because I was with Ken O'Flynn in his office only a few months ago, and I was telling him how much time is wasted enforcing this fucking war on drugs, this prohibition of drugs, where gardai target non-violent drug users. And here he is again going on the radio calling for more fucking more gardai on the street, and for them to enforce it. Like, you know, people go get caught breaking the law, they have to be punished. Like, no more of this slapping the wrist, no more fines and pourbacks. Like, punish them, you know, because the law is the law, he says. Not realizing, like, as a gay man, that like his community of people were also targeted by these same laws, and not too very long ago. I wonder would he have had the same tune back then, when, you know, being in a homosexual relationship was prohibited. Would he have agreed with that then, you know? But Ken Flynn, when I was there in his office, I wanted to get him to support the call for the decriminalisation of the drug user, to make our police more effective and our streets more safer, and to disempower the organised crime gangs. And he wouldn't do it. He agreed with some of what I said, but he wouldn't do it. You know why he wouldn't do it? Votes. That was it. He didn't want to do it because of votes. Fucking scumbag politicians. But yeah, on the radio calling for more cops. For what? You put more cops in the streets. What's that really going to do? They're just going to divert them into fucking Operation Tara. Or do you know, that was it? That's all they really would probably do. What's going on, Andrea? See Andrea out there. Very true, Martin. Nice one. Billy Bonds, politicians are the backbone of the drugs market, keeping it illegal. 100% Billy Bonds. Without the politicians keeping it illegal, you wouldn't have these Kinahans, the Hutches, you know, the all of the other drug gangs that were out there in Ireland. There's some serious feuds going on, and you have to wonder what it's all to do with, you know. But we drive on, because in another story in Ireland, another drugs raid carried out, there was armed Gardaí involved in what they describe here as a major operation, as multiple houses were raided and 2 people were arrested. This was Gardaí in County Limerick, in Kilmallock, and they were targeting the sale and supply of drugs in the town when they carried out this operation, which was led by the Bruff Gardaí, and assisted by an armed unit, dog unit, and a drug squad. It was part of a response to violent clashes between groups in the town last week. And I believe I've gotten some of the videos of these violent clashes between the groups last week in the town. I'll pop them up on screen there now for you. But I think this is it. This is a video that was up there on the 16th of September. I'd imagine that this was some of it. But the boys, there's a video here. A load of young fellas could be seen taking bats out of the bushes here at the back of some houses in Limerick. And whoever's taking the video of, or it's probably on Snapchat, says, "Oh my God, all getting bats out of their hiding space. There's going to be war tonight." And then the next video on the same post is this. The wrong house, boys. The boys started getting slap happy and getting onto the neighbour's gaff. You know, if you go back, they started breaking. They were only supposed to get the gaff on the left, and they started getting the gaff on the right. The wrong house, boys. I don't care, but I just want to break a window, but fucking dumbasses. But again, like, is this like they're saying drug feuds going on there? The cops carrying out raids then afterwards, boys targeting each other. But are the boys all pissed off? Was this in relation to the big massive load of raids that went on there only the week prior to this when the army were up there as well. You have to wonder. Up the guards, shades boys, scatter. But yeah, pure scumbaggery, man, up there just fucking battering people's gaffs. Not too sure exactly where in if this was the actual incident there that the Gardaí are talking about, but I can only imagine that it was something like that if it wasn't it. But like, if that was the feud caused by the drugs thing, you know, what are we why are we continuing this? How long more are we going to continue this for? Because are these the people that we want to be in control of the drugs market, where there's so much money to be made? Is that really who we want to be in control of it? With these young fellas going around the gaff with their baseball bats, smashing in people's window in the middle of the night, like, you know, attacking the fucking innocent neighbours' gaffs then as well, in the middle of it all. But yeah, the Gardaí in Bruff seized cash and drugs, and they arrested 2 men as part of the ongoing investigation targeting the local sale and distribution of illegal drugs and related criminal activity in Kilmarnock, County Limerick. And these were the drugs, as I say, that were seized there, and the cash as well. There was €800 worth of cocaine, €800 worth of cannabis, and €6,500 in cash. It says the drugs will be forwarded to the Forensic Science Ireland again for analysis at the cost of the Irish taxpayers. Up, and it's 4:22 out there again, guys. Over in the Azores, 2 minutes late, but it's 4:22, so blaze them on up. Second opportunity to do it. The 2 men arrested were both in their 30s and were detained for questioning at the Bruff Garda station. It says the previous Sunday, September 12th, the Gardaí responded to a number of violent disturbances in the town after clashes between rival groups saw a house and cars damaged. A number of videos circulated online showing groups of men using sticks to break windows in a house, and a voice can be heard saying the wrong house had been attacked. Yeah, that confirms that was the video actually there for me. It says in another video, a loud bang is heard and a woman asks if there are guns present, prompting another female to respond, there were guns there a while ago, and a shot went off. And it says Gardaí said it had not received reports the shots had been fired, but it's understood 2 senior representatives from both feuding groups met and agreed a truce in a church in recent days. That's fucking hilarious, like. Gardaí are examining videos that have been shared widely in social media along with CCTV footage, and they said they have been actively patrolling the town for the past week in a bid to keep the lid on tensions between the rival groups. Again, imagine like if alcohol was still illegal, this would be the equivalent of the local craft breweries fighting with each other, and that's how they're carrying out their business, going out with their bats, you know, and possibly guns there as well. But no, regulation works. The pubs don't fight with each other. They compete through offering good deals and quality service to their patrons. Unlike these fucking organised crime gangs who use violence and intimidation to prop up their fucking business. I actually have the other video there for you as well, in which the ladies are talking about gunshots going off. This is this video. So like a load of heads here again, like imagine living there in this, like, do you know? Imagine living next door to these guys. And all of this violence coming down. Literally bodies just jumping out of cars there, I can see them.
Is there guns there? Huh? Is there guns there?
There was a gun there a while ago because the shot went off.
There's some load of cops there now as well, like. Some carry on, like. Just screaming animals. like. And blaze one up
Is
there
there
before
gunshots
this.
or what?
Is there gunshots? That wasn't a gunshot at all. I'd say it was like fuck somebody baiting a wheelie bin or something with a stick.
Simon, I'd say come out of it. You're too young to be looking at that now.
But true that, Simon is too young to be seeing that. What was that last video that was here now? Just more of it. There seems to be a load of young fellas actually with Hurleys. That's what I thought this one was. And a load of young ones as well. Pretty young by the looks of them, like. Some carry on though. So yeah, madness. Rival drug gangs carrying out attacks like that in housing estates where young people, you know, out in the green area where young people should be out playing football and stuff like that. Again, you know, taking the Icelandic approach, but they can't. They can't go out and play football. Their mums probably don't leave them out there because, you know, oh no, that house down there, they're dealing drugs, and you know, I don't want you out there because there's been incidents like this in the past, and we don't want that, you know. No, that's just. We need another change, and we need a drastic change because the way in which our society is heading at the moment, it's not fucking good. It's really not. And we look at the effect of Prohibition, you know, and all of the hard work of our Gardaí locking up people in the past. And look at these guys, right? Gangland killer, Brian Rattigan, and he's teaming up, it says here, with John Gilligan on Spain's Costa Blanca. And this was an article that was up there on the Sunday World. So this is where this is coming from, the Sunday World. I'll pop the article up here just so you can see it. But yeah, Gangland killer Brian Rattigan teams up with John Gilligan on Spain's Costa Blanca. But yeah, the two were spotted at a nightclub by one of the reporters there for the Sunday World. And it seems that they struck up a relationship while they were serving time in Portlaoise prison. So there you go. Like this is what happens. You lock up people and they go to prison. They meet other people like them who are engaged in the same kind of line of business. And when they get out of prison, well, there you go. No, we're associates. Sure, I know you. Sure, we spent 10 years together there on fucking the H block or whatever block they might have been on. You know, the H block. Because Brian Rattigan actually was while he was serving in prison, Brian Rattigan is infamously known for being running a multi-million euro heroin operation from behind bars in Portlaoise prison. While he was in Portlaoise prison, he got convicted of importing, I believe it was €1 million worth of heroin, and he got a 17-year sentence as for that. But the sentence was backdated to 2008. So he got it in 2013. He got the sentence. They backdated it to 2008 when the heroin was actually seized by the cops. But he was operating that operation while behind bars in his jail. So that'll tell you how good Prohibition is in Ireland and how effective it is, and what it really does. Puts bad people together who, when they're together, and when they get out, then afterwards they have a relationship, and it's not good for society then as a result of that, because they go straight back into what they were doing. Is that not what John Gilligan went and done? As soon as he got out of prison, didn't he not feck off to the UK after he was getting shot at here and stuff like, but then over to Spain, and he just started running his operation from Spain. He's out in bail now currently after he got busted there a few months ago. We did touch off that in the 420 News in the past. When he got caught up for his part of an illegal drug smuggling operation there, but he's out in bail as that investigation is ongoing over there. But still, while he's out in bail, sure, he's hanging out with Brian Rattigan. Brian Rattigan also has been convicted for murder in the past, but that was overturned in 2017 to manslaughter. And that was for the murder of Declan Gavin. It says a 21-year-old man. He was killed in a fatal stabbing, and apparently then that led to the Crumlin-Drimnagh feud and at least 15 other murders after that. So like, That'll tell you what goes on there as a result of prohibition. Like your man Rattigan and the likes of him, their business was cannabis, cocaine, like drugs, illegal drugs. Prohibition is what kept these guys going. The likes of Frank Fian and Stephen Donnelly right now are basically the people pouring fuel into the engine of these guys' organisations and keeping them running. And I hope they're happy about that. Like, I know they're ignorant about it, but surely, like, there's some fucking light getting through there to them, like, and they understand, like, their part that they play in supporting these organised crime gangs. It says here that Rattigan, 41 years of age, left Ireland on a ferry to the UK less than a week after he's released from Portlaoise prison, and he's not returned since. So here's a picture of John Gilligan living her up over there in the Costa Blanca area. But also then you have here your man Brian Rattigan, Mr. Brian Ratty. And he's a weird old face in him, but he's a fellow who benefits off of these current restrictions now. Currently, look at him going around with his mask and his sunglasses and his bald hat. In fairness, like himself and John Gilligan, they're two people who actually like the mask mandates, because there's probably people out there who don't like them. The media certainly don't really like them anyway, and they like to take their pictures. So these masks help these individuals, and the sooner we can fucking get away or get rid of these masks, the better. Because it's not just criminals like these guys as well. There's sick perverts, pedos out there as well. There was one here in Cork that was being brought to our attention recently, and the guy was going around the place with a mask on him, like, and he's happy out, and like, 'cause nobody knows his face now, whereas all along he kind of was known, and people would be wide of him going around the place. But yeah, we won't go too much into the mask things there now and that. I was just kind of pointing out how it's beneficial for these guys. So we drive on, guys, and the final headline I have for you today, and I saved the best to last. I saved the good news till the end. Is that not Van Morrison? We drive on, and the good news, guys, I have for you today is that the Italians, yes, Viva Italia, they have reached their goal of 500,000 signatures on a petition to initiate a referendum for the legalization of cannabis, and they did this within 1 week. And this is according to a post there over on get them up there now. I'm just trying to referendumcannabis.it. That was the page that the campaign was being run from. This is over there on Facebook. Check them out if you'd like. Maybe pop them a message. I know I popped them a message earlier. Hopefully they get back to me. Hopefully they got somebody who's got some good English over there. Anyway, I'd like to pick their brain a little bit and see what's going to be happening there in the coming few days now as part of this. But it says here, in less than a week, we've gathered more than 500,000 signatures for the referendum of cannabis, a stunning outcome that was possible thanks to the efforts of thousands of activists. But to send a clear message to the politics that is already undermining the importance of this result, we want to undermine the parliament with a green tide. It says also to be sure to reach the goal and vote in next spring. It's essential to reach 600,000 signatures. So I think they're aiming to get another 100,000 signatures, if that's correct. But happy fucking days. Fair play to them. It says the campaign to decriminalise cannabis in Italy has... whoops, we get that off their feet. Has gathered the 500,000 signatures required to put the issue to voters ahead of the September 30th deadline. The proposal must first be submitted to lawmakers before being sent to the nation's Supreme Court of Cassation, which would have to approve the petition before it moves to the Constitutional Court, which will determine whether or not it is constitutional. The group collected 500,000 signatures in just 1 week. If it survives this process, the Italian president would set a date for the referendum, which would likely be next year. Italy initially decriminalised cannabis possession in 1993, but a 2006 law tripled prison sentences for cultivation, sales and possession until that law was reformed in 2014. Earlier this month, it says lawmakers decriminalised cannabis cultivation of small amounts for personal use while increasing the penalty for sale from 6 years to 10 years. The campaign organisers said that legalising cannabis in Italy would put an end to the unnecessary trials for small amounts of the drug and ensure that patients who use it to relieve their excruciating pain will never have to face a court again. The group added that full legalisation could lead to about €7 billion in revenue for the nation, noting that there are about 6 million cannabis consumers in Italy. If approved, Italy would become just the 4th European Union member state to pass reforms, joining Portugal, which has decriminalised all drugs, and the Czech Republic and Estonia also. So there you go, guys. That's some positive news there within Europe, anyway, at least. Go on the Italians. They got 500,000 signatures, and now they can push ahead with their referendum. Unfortunately, we have nothing like that in Ireland. We could get every single person in Ireland to sign a petition, and it means nothing. It has no value. It's pure ornamentative. That's completely it. Like there is no value there to it at all. And that's very unfortunate. We really do need a pathway for citizens initiated referenda here in Ireland, because otherwise we're not getting the proper representation and proper action from our government, I suppose, in the different areas of policy change that the public would desire. Often the government, we vote them in, and then they go off and act accordingly to what they want to do, and it goes against, for example, the Green Party and their kind of position on cannabis. They flip-flopped on it when they went into government, despite many people voting for them and it being a part of their bloody thing, That's very unfortunate. And we do need more pathways, because imagine if people who voted for the Green Party got incredibly pissed off and got organised, and that we're able to organise a petition, get enough signatures, and to force the government then to include cannabis legalisation as a part of its programme for government, or at least initiate a referendum to change our constitution, possibly to include the use of cannabis there in it. But we need that here in Ireland anyway. Citizens initiated referendums. We need what do we have? Almost 5 million people in the country. If we were to be able to get like 10% of our country to sign a petition, 500,000 people, surely that should be enough to initiate a referendum. Well, not 10% of the adult population of the voters, of whoever the registered voters are. 10% of that population maybe. Or maybe smaller. It was 10% in college anyway. If we wanted to initiate a referendum within the college, we needed to get 10% of the college to sign a petition. So that's it, guys. That is all of the 420 news that I have for you today. Much appreciated, everybody, for tuning in. Got a good old audience out there today. Lots of support coming in, lots of likes. Good few people sharing the stream there as well today, guys. You're all legends. Nice one for that. Also, nice one, guys, for all your comments. See many of them coming in. Probably won't have enough time there now to get through them all. I'm going to have to run away there in the next 5 minutes to get down to the gym and do a bit of training there for this evening. Have to be down there for 6 again. Call Quinnock. Some poor lad's ounce gone. Yep. And his bag of coke too. Pods for 420. Well, I've never seen so many cops around Dublin city centre than what I did on Saturday. They left us alone, but the manner was a money waste. They're just ridiculous at this stage. Like, that's so true, Pods. I couldn't get over that as well. They had at least 5 cops there afforded to us for the 4 hours that we were protesting. Yeah, how much does that cost the taxpayer? It's not cheap anyway, I can imagine. They're part of Corbin. You also won't have the likes of RT glorification of scumbags through love, hate, kin, and whatever else, whatever other rehearsed shites. I haven't checked that one out actually yet. The recent TV show Kin. I'll let them get another 1 or 2 episodes out and I might watch them then. But yeah, if any of you watched it out there, let me know what you think there. I'll get down to your comments in a second. Gonna pack up another bowl before we hit the road. But guys, also do consider, if anybody's out there, if you do think that you would make a good contribution to the 420 news, also looking for maybe somebody to contribute to the blog. Even if you don't want to come on camera, if you'd like to be a person who contributes to the blog and maybe contributes to the lineup of the 420 news, That would also be greatly appreciated. It would lessen the workload I have, but also add to the quality of output there, because for me, I would imagine two heads is better than one. So again, Martin's World podcast at gmail.com. Get your CVs in there. And again, by CVs, just express your interest, guys. Give me a shout, and I'm sure we can have a chat and sort something out. The Global Resistance, nice natural stash. Scatanist, good old 1920s style, as in the US Prohibition, 100 years on, same thing with drugs. Waiting for Jerry Springer to pop out, Kerhansi says, with a camera crew to give it loads. Who else out there? Billy Bonds, exactly 100 years on and people still being oppressed by prohibition. Shows how stupid the general public are. Very sad situation for families. I think even the general public, in fairness, like are wise now to the effects of, at least to the shortcomings of prohibition. I think many of the people in the general public now are supportive of the change that we're calling for. And it's largely the politicians, the likes of Frank Fionn and the whole Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael party, even Sinn Féin and the rest of them. They're all far out of touch. Even on Saturday, guys, like, where was, like, unfortunate, I hate calling the guy out, like, but where was Gino? Like, where was Gino on Saturday above at the protest again? Where was anyone from People Before Profit? The whole thing was organised. They could have just showed up. They could have maybe just even shared a video or a poster of the thing or something like that. But no support there at all. It's terrible. So yeah, they all need to get their act together and up there. Because you're really losing faith in the political system. But believe me, I've never had so much faith in the general public than what I do now. The people out there willing to come out and support the need for change on this issue, and the willing to engage in actions as well. Peaceful civil disobedience. It's not an easy thing to do, but more and more people now are more willing to engage in it, as we've seen over the last couple of months. 1,200 people engaged in it in Phoenix Park. We had about 200 people engaged in it in Cork. We had about another 50 in Kerry. We had another about 50 in Dungarvan. And again above there in Dublin over the weekend. We had again almost another 200 people engaged in civil disobedience. That to highlight the need for change. It's happening, guys. We're getting on it. Yeah, as well, Rebel Telly, yeah, they're another arm of the People Before Profit, are they not? They're their media wing. They were supposed to come, and they didn't. It's unfortunate. And I understand, yeah, Gino has other commitments, but still, it would have been nice for him to come down. Even Bridget, isn't it? Bridget, she ran in the recent Dublin South Bay by-election. But like, they don't talk on cannabis. Like, surely she could have popped around. Like, somebody should have came anyway to fly the flag from them. I just thought it was pretty poor of them not to, especially when they have a bill going in on it later on this year. Greens did a 180, says Bogwan's son. Yes, they did. They're flip-floppers. Andrea says, thanks for the show, Martin, and gives me 2 stars. Oh, thanks very much, Andrea. So it's probably each star is made up of 220 stars. So that's 420 stars from Andrea. Nice one, agent. Pods4420 says, if a petition gets a certain amount of numbers, the government have to talk about it, or has that all changed now? No, there's definitely kind of a petition system there through the government, where they have to talk about it. Yeah, they're all right, but there's like, they don't actually have to incorporate any of the changes called for in it. I know one of the lads, Brian Houlihan, had one put in the past about hemp, and he got heard. He got to go in to present to him, but I don't think anything really came of it afterwards. Hence, we're still in the mess that we're in here now today, even for the hemp growers out there. The Global Resistance. My parents used to have a house in Barley Cove. I used to go on holidays with them. But I'm in Holland. Nice. Lucky you over there in Holland. Barley Cove is a beautiful part of Ireland too, down there in West Cork. Definitely lovely spot. DB Woodcraft says, I asked Paul Murphy, would there be someone from People Before Profit at the protest, and he said, I'm not aware of it. Yeah, that's unfortunate, like, that they're not informing each other as to what's going on around the place and where they could go out and get, the support of some more people and make a bit of a statement on an issue that's important to their party, if it is important, but maybe it's not. But yeah, Bridget Purcell, thanks very much, Kaskatanis. That's who I was on about, Bridget Purcell. Sure, she didn't even get elected, unfortunately. It would have been great if she did, but unfortunately, wasn't it? She lost out to the Labour one. And wasn't that Labour one then afterwards at the party there for you one? Catherine Sapone, wasn't she? uh, yes. What a mess we have here in this country. Skatana says the Hemp Federation in Germany is running a big campaign right now for legalisation ahead of elections. That's right, actually. I was going to bring that up. I'd like to get, I'll get that included in next week's, in next Wednesday's 420 News. But I seen that the Hemp Federation in Germany, if there's anybody out there, actually, once I seen it, I was like, oh, we should do something like that here. But powerful projectors and just go around cities and project onto buildings different messages for like legalization. It's like a simple but effective way in which you can gather attention from the public and the media. Just go out and take over a side of a building for an hour or two some evenings, and just project up there, different facts and stuff like that about cannabis and stuff like that and prohibition. I think it's a great way to raise awareness. But that's what the Hemp Federation are engaged in. At least that's a part of what they're engaged in over there. At least that's what I was inspired by when I seen it anyway. They're projecting like messages for cannabis legalization over there now, calling for change from the government as they're heading into an election cycle. Well, N1 Ghost Stalker, what do you think about the choice of name for protests being the major smoke up? I see a lot of people in the community not being fans of the name and feeling it gives a bad image. Thoughts? Yeah, I think even the organisers, the people who used to be known as the major smoke up, would agree with you on that one, and they've taken the thoughts or the considerations of the community on board in that one as well. They're now known as the major protest for cannabis reform. I believe that's the name of their group now, MGCR, a major group for cannabis reform. So I hear you on that one. Yeah, definitely smoke up, because not everybody who consumes cannabis smokes it. And as well, at the picnics, a lot of people brought edibles and things like that. So it definitely does give a bit of a bad image when it's like smoke up. It's like no, it's a civil disobedience protest. Or maybe a cannabis consumption party. The donkeys do it in the UK, are led by the donkeys. It's called, yeah. Enjoying myself here in the hot box. Nice. Right, guys, I'm going to have to blaze one up, and I'll read one or two more comments, and then I'm going to have to love you and leave you. But it has been a great crack there today. I've enjoyed getting the news out there to you today. Some interesting news stories anyway, but a good positive one there from Italy anyway, so happy days. I suppose this is our own happy news as well from Ireland. Very positive gathering, successful protests. So two positive news stories today, and unusually so, one of them being from Ireland. It's not too often we get positive news in Ireland. Lovely group of activists. Bogwan Sunwell, it's for politics in general, called led by Donkey. Skatana says it's not major smoke up anymore, it's the major protest from the major group for cannabis reform. Pods 4420 says really shouldn't matter what it's called, we're all in this for the one thing, the mighty herb. Yeah, I would agree with you there, definitely. Pods 4420, like I wouldn't want to be falling out with people over the name, but I definitely do think it's important we take people's concerns on board. It's how we mature as a group, and it's how we improve. If we went back maybe 10, 20 years ago, like, yeah, definitely smoke up would have been the kind of the thing. But now as we're more educated, it's like, yeah, like, while the majority of people do smoke it, it's like consumption is like a bit more of a positive way of saying it, I suppose. Cannabis consumer rather than I smoke cannabis. It's like, no, I'm a cannabis consumer, because you mightn't always smoke it, you know. Sometimes you do consume it as an edible, but also the idea of smoking. Smoking, it's such a tainted word. Do you know, and maybe there's yeah, just when you think about it, when you think of smoking, you think of like cancer, you think of like poor lungs and all of that stuff. Like, so you just have to try and get away from that image when you talk about cannabis. So you just talk about, yeah, I consume cannabis, yeah, I smoke it through a bong, or I hit it in a bong. Yes, Hype says some people just get upset for the crack these days. I do agree with you there, Hype. There definitely is a bit of a snowflake nation out there as well. People fall out with one another for all sorts of reasons. It's gas. I love the sound of the bubbling bong. Yes, me too. The Global Resistance says, if a nation or state fully legalizes cannabis for adults 21, they hurt the black market and will earn 85% more in tax revenue as compared to nations or states with only medical cannabis programs. There you go now, guys. 85% more in terms of tax revenue from cannabis sales, I'd imagine, rather than overall revenue. Says, previous as a DJ game cook chat remark. Okay, that's a statement coming from somebody else. But yeah, nice one. Like, yeah, it just goes to show there's a lot of money to be made from the sale of supply of cannabis to consenting educated adults. Yeah, I love the positive message of keeping drugs away from kids. Sure, we could all get behind that. Exactly. That's the thing. That's the thing we have to preach. That's what we're calling for. Is we're calling for harm reduction. Yes, you know, more access for the adults, but it's the kids we need to protect. It's the vulnerable people out there who fall prey of drug abuse and drug addiction, who we need to protect, and we protect them through regulation, and not by criminalizing the act of their drug use, you know. Their part of cover, next time you do a protest, everyone should put money together and get Boston Donuts, but make sure there is extra 3 boxes, and get the 3 extra boxes delivered to the cops in the unmarked van. They'd probably sent them to Forensic Science Ireland if we did that. We actually had some croissants gifted to us at the end of the thing, and I said it and all. I was like, oh, we should go over and give one to the cop because he had a few spare. And I was just like, nah, they're just going to drug test them. They won't trust us. Steve Jones, I vaped the herb and the bong with hashish and wrist-tiered. Any word in Luxembourg, they're supposed to be going full legal. No, but I will look into it. I'll have a check out on Luxembourg there for the next Wednesday's 420 news. And Gino Kenny is in hiding, says Dar Patrick Corman. No, hopefully he's going to come out now. Hopefully he's going to start speaking up now as the government are back in the dial. So hopefully he'll be putting more messages out there. Hopefully he'll organise something there and have announcements to keep people talking about the prospect of legalising cannabis in Ireland. And what that actually means as well, because as well as it's important to keep people talking about it, it's important to educate people about the benefits of it too. And I hope Gino is going to engage in that soon. Right, guys, I'm going to waffle on. Otherwise, if I keep going, I see my short chairs don't get the sense knocked out of you. Yes, because I am going to have to run, guys. It's 5 to I have to get down to the gym and get togged out and do a bit of Thai boxing. So have a nice evening, guys. I'll see you back here at the all-important time of 4:20 next Wednesday. So do stay blazed out there, guys. Keep her lit. Much love and peace.